This is a video response to Eagleeye1975's video. He claims I don't know what an axiom is, and he totally misrepresents both my argument and what axioms are. And he thinks philosophical is substantially different than mathematical. Actually, it's a weaker, stupider version of mathematic axiom. So let me begin. So again, Eagleeye1975, please watch this and look at my arguments, please. Logic is at the very least a subset of mathematics. They are very arguably the same thing, because if number one, I know it's a subset of mathematics, as you can see here. It's part of discrete mathematics, logic here. And so if it's a subset, and if I can prove that mathematics is also a subset of logic, then they're the same fucking thing. Logic is merely deductive reasoning. Philosophy is a loose form of logic with ambiguous language. For every axiom that exists in math, philosophy will have tried to adopt it. In other words, they'll try to make an equivalent for it. It's incumbent upon them to do so. And for every consistent axiom in philosophy, math will already have an equivalent of it. Any extra philosophical axioms that may or may not exist are dubious at best. And the self-ownership axiom isn't even that. It's a genuine fallacy. Adding axioms is a very serious thing if you're going to project them as some general morality. Apparently, you don't even give it the respect that is required from any intellectually honest and logically capable mind. Philosophy without mathematics and science is obsolete. Modern philosophy is not needed, since mathematics, science, and economics have clearly replaced the role of philosophy in analysis of knowledge. As far as axioms are concerned, as I said in my other video, which you didn't even watch, they must be true throughout time, both past, present, and future. If your self-ownership can be taken from you, either by slavery or murder, then it cannot be an axiom, since your axiom can be falsified for you and is falsified for somebody throughout time. And valid counterexamples are past slavery, contemporary slavery, and future slavery. Obviously, they didn't own themselves. And again, your statement, I own myself, really should be, everyone owns themselves, because unless you are only arguing for your own self-ownership, which is clearly ridiculous. And it's apparent you mean this for all points in time. Therefore, your axiom must be, if you want to be logically consistent, all people at all times own themselves. And again, this statement can easily be falsified when someone has the will and ability to overcome the owner's ability to defend it. If you actually watch my video, not only does an axiom have to be seemingly true at all times, but it must never be able to be falsified, or it must not be able to be violated. When it comes to any property, including one's self or one's mind or one's body, owning your blank property, a car even, is violatable, right? Even your body, the ownership of your body is violatable. Any property you can think of is violatable, meaning all it takes is someone with the will and ability to do so to violate it and take it from you. And all your axioms become bona fide fallacies. Also, if owning yourself, if owning yourself is always true, like you're saying, even though it's violated, you still own yourself, then there is no argument against enslaving or killing you, right? Then your whole goal of showing why slavery is wrong becomes moot. Please learn to distinguish between the terms can, is, and ought. Ability statements can, descriptive statements is, prescriptive statements ought. Prescriptive statements are a subset of ability statements, and ability statements are a subset of descriptive statements. Amateur logicians and modern philosophers aren't logicians tend to conflate by using ambiguous, poorly defined terms. This is sophistry, not what I'm doing. With proper math training, you learn to differentiate by adopting a well-defined definition set, which obviously you haven't done. What you are trying to establish as an axiom is a person should own himself, but this is perspectiveless and does not make any evolutionary sense under egotist analysis, right? Every well-defined morality must have perspective, just like relativity itself. You can't talk about it. It becomes poorly defined without perspective. Egotism says that all well-defined terms must be a type of well-defined function. If a term is well-defined, I claim, it will classify any object in reality as either an element of that definition set, meta-self, or its complement, not that meta-self. And you can see the definition of well-defined in mathematics. You didn't select the best axioms that make sense of the world like you claim. You picked the best set of axioms that makes the sense of rights, which you actually admit at one point in your video, which is intellectually dishonest. The same intellectual dishonesty that you accuse me of, without even listening to any of my arguments. Telling a slave he has the right to defend himself when there is no sufficient ability to allow him to do so makes no sense in reality. It's just like saying someone has the right to jump to the moon as long as he doesn't violate others' rights to do so. And it doesn't make any sense, right? What good is having the right to jump to the moon when you can't do it? It doesn't have any meaning. It doesn't give whoever is using this, it doesn't make sense of reality in any way. And it doesn't add any information to the hypothetical or what's going on, whoever's analyzing the system. Where is the logical deduction from you own your body to you own everything you produce? There's a logical gap there. That's just another set of axioms that you're implying. Therefore, I own so I can just as arbitrarily say, if I own my body, therefore I own everything I look at. Again, I'm missing some logical mechanism here. You're claiming, why is it that if you own something, that somehow if it's related to producing something, you own that too? And obviously, you're just making a whole set of axioms of right to ownership of all property. Again, you're going to have to establish, at least in homesteading, there's a reason, right? You're at least the first to own it, and somehow that gives you better claim to it. At least there's some reasoning there. You're just jumping reason totally. It's totally ridiculous. You don't know anything about logic. Apparently, you're probably a computer programmer whose mathematical training stops at discrete, if that at all. And maybe you didn't even do that well at it. I can sense it. You don't have any higher mathematical training past discrete, and that's the maximum. That's the maximum you probably have in mathematical training. Try writing proofs, and you'll understand. Cost of defending rights has been so diluted you don't even see it. It's a statist way of thinking. Now think of your rights on a two-man island. It doesn't make any sense, right? And the cost of rights, you'll see that you lose sense of cost because you're in society, and you think it's the fact that it's so diluted over all people. You lose a sense of who's actually providing these self-ownership rights or property rights you want, right? Well, on a two-man island, when one guy steals from the other, who are you going to present your rights to? Even if it's, now take it to by induction, go to a three-man island. You're going to go to the third person and ask him to defend your rights? Who are you going to present your rights to? And why should he give it? Why should he help you get your property back? And if you're going to appeal to self-interest, like, hey, this guy stole mine, he might steal yours, that's a totally different argument. Now you're actually making an egotist argument where he should help you deter this guy from stealing his own property, or do something about this guy because he's a threat to him. That's an independent claim. That's an independent argument from the fact that just the fact is a past event where he stole your property. It totally doesn't make sense. You don't understand. You don't understand the intricacies of writing a logical proof. It's obvious you have no formal training in that, or at least you're rusty, or you were bad at it when you had the class, because you cannot jump reasoning like this. And for you to accuse me without even looking at my arguments, who's being intellectually dishonest here? You have no clue on what axioms are for. You don't just willy-nilly just declare them just because it makes you feel better or it proves what you want to believe. Now talk about intellectual dishonesty. You're more guilty of it than I am.